In today's video, I'll be revealing what I discovered after working with over 2,500 retirees about why you should retire as soon as possible rather than waiting. Through analyzing the decisions, outcomes, and regrets of thousands of retirees over my career, I've identified clear patterns that show why waiting to retire often costs you more than the financial security that you gain from waiting. And that's exactly why I'm making this video today, to show the most compelling reasons from my experience with studying 2,500 retirees about why retiring sooner rather than later leads to better outcomes. If you're new to the channel, my name is Ben. I've been a financial advisor focusing on retirement for almost 20 years, and I want to help make your retirement even better. So when I ask retirees about their biggest regret, the most common answer isn't about money. It's really more about time. Too many people simply wait too long. They think, well, if I just work one more year, I'll feel safer. But here's the truth. That will always be the case. Every extra year of work might add a little extra financial margin, but it costs you an entire year of freedom. And once that time is gone, you simply can't buy it back. Retirees consistently tell me they wish they had retired sooner rather than later. But I get it, right? This fact is so common, this phenomenon is so common in retirement, it actually has a name. It's called golden handcuffs. The longer you stay, the more tempting it becomes to continue to stay. Another year might mean a bigger bonus or higher pay, or more commonly, 1 year closer to Medicare or 1 year added to your pension calculation. The list goes on and on and on. And those are all very real financial benefits. But here's the catch. Those benefits do come at a very real cost. A 30-year retirement is now a 29-year retirement, 28, 27, 26, and so on and so forth. Working one more year does not mean that you're necessarily going to live one more year. And I think that's something that should be discussed, but often isn't, because we're blinded by these golden handcuffs. I sometimes call retirement a leap of faith. Much like having children, if you wait until the timing is 100% perfect, absolutely no risk, no uncertainty, well, you'll never actually do it. If you wait until it's absolutely mathematically certain, you're going to retire right around your 99th birthday, right? And who wants that? That's why planning matters so much. The role of a retirement plan is to find the key of financial independence, and the key then will unlock those golden handcuffs. This also connects directly to health. I call it the 1 more year syndrome, right? You think you're playing it safe by delaying retirement, but every just 1 more year chips away at your healthiest years, right? The years where you could be traveling or hiking or golfing or just making memories with friends and grandkids, just enjoying life before some of the physical limitations start to creep in. Because inevitably, age is going to limit what it is that you can do in retirement. Financial resources can't buy back your healthiest years. That's why retirement isn't just about money. It's about protecting your health advantage. I don't want you to be 80 looking back at the previous 20 years and thinking, well, I wish I would have done X, Y, Z. Now, for many, retiring early doesn't mean never working again, but it means financially having the freedom to do more meaningful work on your own terms. And that could be anything. It could be teaching, volunteering, mentoring, starting a small business, or just pursuing more creative passions that might not necessarily have a significant financial angle. Right? This kind of work that provides purpose without the stress of needing a paycheck. And early retirees have the time and the energy and the flexibility, and then often some financial resources to actually pursue these things. So take, for example, my colleague Rita. She's been leading Habitat for Humanity mission builds for almost 15 years, often inviting many of our clients and some of my family members and friends to join. Some of them have told me it had been years since they'd last swung a hammer or pushed a shovel, but they were grateful they did it in their late 50s and early 60s. Well, why? Well, because as sore as they were after building these houses for a week or two, they admitted there's no way they'd have the stamina to do that in their 70s, let alone their 80s, right? Climbing ladders, pouring concrete, manually bending rebar, swinging a hammer all day. Those are things that get certainly harder, not easier with time. That's the point of passion work in early retirement. If there's something that you really want to do, you stack the deck in your favor by doing it sooner rather than later. Because one thing about retirement is guaranteed: doing something physically demanding is not going to get easier as you get older. So now that you understand passion work opportunities, if you're wondering whether your financial situation enables early retirement for pursuing that kind of meaningful work, click the link below and book a call with me. I'll analyze your specific situation and help you get to early retirement sooner. Another often overlooked benefit of retiring early is the family care advantage. Think about being available when your parents need you most, or when your kids are launching their career, or when your grandkids are growing up, right? Those windows don't really stay open forever. I have seen clients choose early retirement specifically to spend more time with their grandkids, or because they wanted to move closer to aging parents. They didn't want to miss those fleeting years, and money really can't replace that kind of connection. Here's another surprising truth. Most people already have enough to retire earlier than they think. In fact, most people don't realize just how conservative popular retirement strategies like the 4% rule actually are. So research from the Nerd's Eye View blog from Michael Kitces shows that retirees often end retirement with 2 to 5 times more wealth than they started with. In fact, following the 4% rule, retirees end up with more money than they began with in over 50% of historical scenarios. And in fact, in nearly 30% of cases, they finish retirement with almost double their starting wealth. Now, don't just take my word for it. I'll put a link in the video description. You can read this research for yourself. So why don't more people retire sooner if the math is in their favor? Well, I think it's because they don't see their portfolio as adequate. Because they look at each component, Social Security, pensions, investments, Medicare, home equity, they look at each component individually in silos. And when you make 5 or 6 or 10 separate decisions about the different components of your retirement, you miss how they all work together comprehensively. A comprehensive plan integrates all those pieces so that you can maximize the good parts of what you've got access to and minimize the bad parts of whatever is in your plan. Without that integration, people often underspend, often drastically underspend. So now that you understand portfolio adequacy signals, let's look at how to make confident early retirement decisions. This is where a properly designed plan can really skyrocket your confidence. Because believe it or not, it's hard to say out loud because of how unbelievable this is. Even though the 4% rule is already hyper-conservative, as we just discussed in the previous segment, many retirees actually don't even spend 4%. They spend significantly less. In fact, recent research shows that retirees often spend just 2.1% annually, according to a recent article from the Wall Street Journal. Again, don't take my word for it. I will drop the research in the video description. You can read this video from the Wall Street Journal, providing that you have enough free articles left without getting a subscription. So from the article, married 65-year-olds with at least $100,000 in financial assets withdrew an average of 2.1% of their savings annually. Again, we just covered how conservative the 4% rule is, and you've got a better chance of doubling or tripling or quadrupling your money using 4%. And even recognizing how conservative that is, people still only spend half of that. Well, why on earth would people spend so little? Well, my opinion is, I think it's because many retirees see their portfolio as one big emergency fund rather than what it actually is, and that is an engine that can power some incredible cash flows when, one, you incorporate all retirement decisions and timelines together. We don't view each component of our retirement plan as a silo, like I mentioned earlier. And two, we invest properly to account for both growth to fight inflation as well as income. So because they treat their portfolio as one giant emergency fund, they can't invest according to those two parameters, right? We need to build an engine that's going to generate cash flow. Additionally, because it's difficult to individually account for each risk a retiree might encounter in retirement, a retiree might mentally allocate all of their portfolio and reserve it for what they perceive to be the scariest unknown in their retirement plan. The nursing home is probably the most common villain in this scenario. So people think, well, if I ever need long-term care, this whole $1 million might be gone. I better mentally allocate all of this portfolio for long-term care. And then that fear keeps people from enjoying the portfolio that they work so hard to accumulate. So if unknown risks are the poison that prevents you from confidently spending from your portfolio, then the antidote is a plan that assigns contingencies, right? When you, for example, view your home equity as a quasi long-term care insurance policy, right? That's your backup plan, or you actually purchase insurance against some of these risks, or you've earmarked other assets for healthcare, well, suddenly the rest of your portfolio becomes available to generate retirement income rather than serving, like I said, as just one giant emergency fund. I think that's why a lot of people look at their portfolio as just a big slush fund for emergencies, right? If we can allocate mentally or physically allocate for other unknowns, we become more free than to actually spend that money. Once we start to account for contingencies and understand the real flexibility that's hidden inside of our portfolio, that's when you financially shift your mindset and start to give yourself more permission to spend. In fact, I had a client come in worried about this exact situation the other day, and his opening line was, I hope I can make it just 2 more years before retirement, because 2 more years meant closer to Medicare, closer to Social Security, and just a little bit more confidence in spending. But after walking through his plan and showing him the strengths and the weaknesses and creating contingencies for things that he was worried about, his whole perspective changed. And actually, by the end of the meeting, he said, I actually kind of hope my company offers retirement buyout soon. I'm ready right now. And that's really the power of a plan. It takes you from fear and scarcity to confidence and potentially even excitement about retirement. From I hope I can make it 2 more years to I'm kind of hoping for a retirement buyout, all within the span of a 1 hour meeting. Well, that's the power of seeing your retirement for what it really is. And that's an engine that can generate flexible cash flow as long as you know what you're doing. So now that you understand why my experience with over 2,500 retirees show why you should retire as soon as possible and the key factors that make early retirement successful, you can make confident decisions about your own retirement timing. So if you want help analyzing whether your situation enables early retirement and developing a plan to retire sooner rather than later, go ahead and click a link below, book a call with me, and I'll review your situation and help you retire as soon as possible. So that's what I got prepared for you this week. My name is Ben. I hope this video helped to make your retirement even better, and I'll see you on the next one.